Venus in Sagittarius, you'll see that I'll have some celebrities up that are also Venus in Sagittarius. Venus in Sagittarius has a beauty and fashion blueprint that's very vibrant when it comes to the color palette. The most important part of the body is the hips. The hips are greatly important and need to be defined, even if they aren't. Like, even if you're not a hippie person, like with a lot of curves, but if you are, then it works in your favor. So the idea of Sagittarius is a traveler, and Venus in Sagittarius is actually exploring herself and isn't as comfortable here. This energy embodies the fiery elements of the colors due to that kind of hothead that Venus finds herself in the fire signs. Sagittarius is a wildfire, and so Venus's beauty is very much so that case. It can't be tamed. So she's quite a stimulation. I call it a buffet stimulation, and she brings pleasure through the world through that stimulation. The big idea about Venus and Sagittarius is that blueprint looks like a traveler. It's either looking where you're coming from or where you're going, which means that it can almost be like a mock or a stereotyped version of the neighborhood that you're from. Let's say you're from a preppy neighborhood, right? Then you might dress preppy, and it's like it's classically stereotyped that way. Or if you're from the hood, you might wear very specific things that embody the language, the style of the hood. So it's kind of like a prototype, stereotype version of itself that Venus and Sagittarius will play. Now, Sagittarius is similar to Pisces in the sense that they're both ruled by Jupiter. And when Venus gets with Jupiter, she starts to play, like role play. And so in Pisces, we find the full blown role play. In Sagittarius, it's like hinting to that. And that's why it's like a costume, but it's not in a lot of ways. The fashion taste really reflects the journey as well. So you can also have somebody and then there is the destination outfit. So Venus and Sagittarius, if you're going to the Caribbean, then you might, wear things that make you look that way, more on the stereotype, atypical version, right? So Venus and Sagittarius kind of sticks to these ideals of what the spaces that they're occupying, what they look like. She often will also create like vintage or actually tribal, like an old tribal vibe. And it can be of the heritage that you're from, but it doesn't have to be. So Sagittarius absolutely will embody cultures and heritage that is not their own and will make spin-offs of those things, like tattoos of, Chinese characters, right? Or like any sort of cultural reference that's not your own, you'll see it happen across the board with Venus and Sag. Her legs, her thighs, her hips, this area is what Sagittarius rules. So I even suggest all the fire signs, I suggest more fitness than any of the other placements, even though fitness and good eating is really universal, but certain signs, they need to have it. And definitely working on the legs, strengthening your legs is going to amp up your sensuality and your confidence. Jessica Rabbit of the Zodiac is what I also call Venus and Sagittarius when we look at the emphasis of the bodily curves. Now, curves start to be emphasized when we see Venus in Libra. By the time it gets to Sagittarius, it's overly developed, right? Sagittarius being ruled by Jupiter. It's almost overly exaggerated. And actually, the drawings of Jessica Rabbit from my studies was actually during a Saturn in Sagittarius transit. So I found that to be very interesting. Okay. Jessica Rabbit is an overly exaggerated version of a woman's body, and she fits right into the Sagittarius paradigms, the skeleton of what Sagittarius really is looking for. And this is sometimes not always embodied, right? It's not everybody's thing to be super curvy, but it's really a Sagittarius move to be, if that makes sense. There are certain things, even if you not curvy, or if you are, that you would want to add to your blueprint, like thigh-high shorts, high socks, like thigh socks, skater skirts, slit dresses like Jessica Rabbit, ruffled, tiered out short skirts like Jessica Rabbit's predecessor, which is a cartoon character called Red Hot Riding Hood Miss Vavoom, where she wears like these cute little like frilly skirts around her thighs, but still emphasizes that part. So thigh-high boots, socks, garter belts. This is all Venus in Sagittarius and works so well for this place. So Venus in Sagittarius pushes the envelope of sensuality, and sometimes it's more wild in the sense of non-feminine, or it's wild and overtly feminine, right? Too sexy or maybe there's also an archetype of a wild woman, like somebody who's got their hair like it's not messy, but it's not perfectly done either. I see cowboy boots, denim shorts, like something about actually the West deeply embodies Sagittarius. So the aesthetic of Western movies also deeply connected to Sagittarian energy, and can have a spectrum of being like more bland in the makeup. So like girl next door, not really doing much, to all the way overt, super caked on makeup. I've seen that spectrum as well with Sagittarius. So we see the wild woman. It's not as prim and proper as we find like in Venus and Virgo or even in Libra. Like they have even in Scorpio, they have a very specific thing they lock into. That is your Venus in Sagittarius beauty and fashion blueprint.